Hello, hello, everybody. It's so great to see you all attending this webinar. We will be slowly easing into it, so let's just get 1 or 2 more minutes for everyone to come into the call. If you will have any questions, please use the chat, please use the Q&A. If you want to hear the Spanish translation, you need to go to the Zoom menu and see the icon of the globe. And then please click on the Spanish interpretation to hear the audio of our translator. And of course, we also have international sign and we have captioning. If any of us will be talking too quickly, please let us know and we will adjust so you can all follow up the webinar without any issues and troubles. And with that, I would like to welcome all of you to our second webinar for the Scaling Solutions program, this one focusing on sustainable funding in Latin America settings. I'm joined here with many colleagues and good friends of the Zero Project Network. I'm Małgorzata Grobelna. I'm the program manager of the Zero Project and the operational lead of the Scaling Solutions program and the Equitable AI Alliance. And I'm joined here with someone who is running this webinar actually, and that is a great friend, Varun Chandak from Access to Success. Varun, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Margaret. Hi, everyone. This is Varun speaking. I am the founder and executive director of Access to Success, which, as you may know, is a Toronto-based global innovation hub for accessibility startups. We help scale innovators that are building life-changing innovations for people with disabilities, and we help them reach worldwide. We are also a partner with the Zero Project, and we deliver the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, which if you don't already know about, please make sure you learn more about it. And with that, I would love to invite our next speaker, Javier, with our friends at Descúbreme. Let me just change the spotlight here. And here we go, over to you.
Thank you, Aaron. Well, good morning, dear Ibero-American community. My name is Javiera Selame, and I am here to present the monthly newsletter Red Iberoamericana de Inclusión. This is a collaborative space to share news, initiatives, and free activities related to inclusion of persons with disabilities in Ibero-America. This newsletter will be published on the first Tuesday of each month and sent by email. We invite you to contribute by sharing news, free activities, and other initiatives of regional interest. On the slide currently shown on the screen, you can find the email address and the QR code that links to the subscription form. And we trust that this space will become a meeting point of ongoing exchange and collaboration, helping to build a strong and connected Ibero-American network focused on the inclusion of people with disabilities. And now, I'm going to stop sharing the screen because it's time to introduce the protagonist of this session. Esteban Rojas is the CEO of Humanos 3D from Colombia, and Gabriel Marcolongo is the CEO of Incluyeme.com from Argentina. Both are fellows of the Scaling Solutions program and winners of the Zero Project Award. They will share their valuable experience on funding adapted to the realities of ecosystem of Latin America. So thank you very much, Esteban and Gabriel, for being here. And well, that's all for my side.
Thank you so much, Javi, for that introduction. Esteban, do you want to just do a very short introduction of what you are doing?
Of course. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, for having me here. Well, yeah, again, my name is Esteban Rojas. I am bioengineer and the CEO of Humanos 3D. This is a not-profit organization based in Colombia. And what we are doing is designing and deliver affordable assistive devices through 3D printing technology for people with upper limb disability that lives in remote areas or in rural areas. So we have a program called Mobile Clinics, where we are traveling to those communities to reach them in an easy way. And with that, we are looking for a democratization of assistive devices for people with disabilities.
Thank you for that short introduction. And back to you, Gabriel. Can you also introduce yourself?
Hola, buenos días. I'm Gabriel Marcolongo. I'm CEO and founder of Inclume.com. We do inclusion of people with disabilities across 14 countries in Latin America. And the way we do inclusion is through connecting the talent of people with disabilities. We have a database of 140,000 applicants with disabilities looking for jobs. So we are connecting them with across 700 corporates that are looking to hire talent. We also provide training opportunities, typically in tech. And we also work with several international donors to upskill and reskill people with disabilities. Again, with a lot of focus in tech and employability of our beneficiaries. And I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Thank you also for that introduction. I see that one of our attendees is raising their hand. If you have any question, could you please type it into the chat so either Javiera or Varun can assist you. And if you will have a question for any of our panelists, we will address those at the end of the webinar. And now, without further ado, I wanted to stress that one of the questions that we had in our previous webinar was making everyone very curious. That question was how to make an organization have a sustainable funding source. And so my first question to both of you is, how do you fund your organization? Because from what we learned, many organizations in LATAM are relying on grants and donations, and I'm curious if it's also the case with you. So Gabriel, let's start with you.
So thank you. And I think that the best way I can showcase how we secure our funding is we have a pure B2B model. I mean, we sell services to companies. So this is our primary source of revenue. For our beneficiaries, I mean, for people with disabilities, what we do is everything for free. I mean, we never did and we never will charge people with disabilities even a penny. And I think is the most reliable source of funding to sell products to our customers. And across the 14 countries, our main markets are Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico. And the way we secure funding is to charge companies with a subscription fee and selling services. We are not charging companies a plus if they are hiring more people with disabilities. So it's kind of a flat fee because we want to empower inclusion. So since we are having a flat fee, the goal is to hire as many people as possible. So you don't have to pay a prime if you want to do that. And from day one, we have like this focus on selling services, and we also raise some funds in order to help us to expand to other countries. And luckily, in Latin America, we never had the chance in the past to secure funding coming from social venture funds. So we need to do the road that every startup did, which was to go to traditional funds, to traditional applications. And in this way, while having revenue coming from corporates, it was a big differentiator for us, since we were proving that we have a sustainable business model, and also we were able to create social impact. So it was kind of a plus, but not the main driver for those investors to invest in us.
And how about you, Esteban?
Well, in my case, well, I have been working with Humanos 3D since 2017. So it's almost 10 years as a not-profit organization. Of course, the donations was really important for us, and it is really important for us. And at the beginning, we relied almost entirely on donations and grants. Was like, this is our project, and we were thinking, this is amazing. Everyone is gonna donate to this. Of course, the reality is different. So we have to rethink everything. Today, Humanos 3D is like a more hybrid model. We still have a big dependence of donations, of course. We have like principal sponsors and people that is still donating to our cause. But at the same time, we don't want to feel like vulnerable or with these unpredictable things about I don't know what's gonna happen next, what happens if you don't donate the next year. So we still receive donations, especially from grants, prize, and individual persons, but we have like developed an income generating activities. For example, we offer educational program. We are working with universities, with different corporate workshops. We are offering 3D printing services and working with enterprises. So we can talking about not only delivering assistive devices, but give awareness about what is disability, what is inclusion, so in that way, we are continuing with our mission, but at the same time, we are having revenues in another ways. So instead of separate like an impact or the social mission with the revenues, we try to connect them because in the beginning we say, okay, maybe we are going to do merchandising, we are going to deliver, I don't know, keychains to the enterprises, but this is like another business. So we say, okay, how can we do the same to continue getting revenues, but trying to connect everything to have like all the missions together. So that's what we are doing right now. I will say that I can't say that we are sustainable, that we have all figure result with the solution to our problems, but definitely with this hybrid model, we are in a new step.
Definitely, you are doing something right because you are still on the market, both of you, but especially you, Esteban, saying, hey, I'm not sustainable yet, but you're definitely going in the right direction. But what I also heard in what you just said is that you started with one idea of how the funding will look like, and then you needed to pivot and take a different approach. So, what did you believe about funding at the beginning that proved to be wrong? And if you can elaborate first, you, Esteban.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, at the beginning, I think that was something that I truly believe it that I like when I saw my product when I delivered my first assistive device to a person, to the community, when I saw the smile in the recipients, in the beneficiaries, and I just was thinking, yeah, funding will naturally come, right? I truly believe that if the project is impactful enough, well, people is just gonna believe in that and it's gonna give you all your money, right? But it's not just about the product, and that was my first biggest mistake. That I was really focused in the product. I was thinking to have more engineers in my team, to have people with the knowledge to create this product, to do it, to continue improve it. But I also know that okay, how are gonna get the money to continue impacting more people? So you also need to communicate, and that's really important. It's really important to understand why are you doing this and what is your value. I mean, why what you are doing is different to another one. So funding is not just about doing a good work, it's not just about I really feel happy to doing this. It's about to do that work understandable, like relevant and sustainable for others. So in our case, with Humanos 3D, we were doing like a meaningful work from day one, but we struggled at the beginning because we didn't clearly translate our impact into something that funders, partners, or clients could connect with. It's more like talking about a business model, talking about a strategy. It's talking about what's going to happen in the future. What metrics do you have? What is happening when you deliver a prosthetic hand to a person? What is happening next? It's not just delivering the assistive device. It's what's happening. Is he's getting a job? Is he doing something useful? He's returning to the school. What is happening with the person? What the real impact of this person is not just the outcome, the impact of this person with a prosthetic hand. And that's what people want to see, especially in Latin America. This is even more important because resources in Latin America actually are limited. That's a reality. So it's not always the best project that gets funded. It's often the one that communicates value more clearly. So basically, one big shift so for me was understanding that funding is not just about impact, it's also about strategy, storytelling, and alignment. And of course, continue improving your English because, yeah, if you want to communicate, you need to communicate probably in English with our partners. So if you are in Latin America and you do not speak English, it's going to be a little more difficult because definitely it's something that you need for speak with possible investors or sponsors.
That's a very interesting take to learn also English, not only the languages that are spoken in other Latin countries. Gabriel, you were nodding all the time that Esteban was speaking. Did you have a similar idea that then turned out to be wrong about funding?
Yeah, I fully echo on Esteban's appreciation. I mean, it's if you only consider Latin America as a source of funding, you are kind of restricting yourself about the possibilities you can have. In the beginning, I have several wrong assumptions. So I can spend the whole day talking about what we did wrong. In the early days, I was assuming that, okay, since we are doing the right thing and since about 15% of the population are people with disabilities and 75% of them are employed, companies tend to be attracted to hire the best possible applicants among this population, and we cannot be so much wrong about that. I mean, doing good was not enough for companies, so we need to go back and presenting the ROI about saying, okay, in those countries, you need to be legally compliant, where there are quotas. In other countries, you need to showcase the value of what we are doing. And it depends on who you are talking with. The pitch should be completely different. I mean, one thing is to talk with the HR department where they're looking to attract talent. A different thing is to speak with the DEI where the rationals are completely different. And with legal departments, also the conversation is all about risk mitigation. So we needed to understand how to talk with different people across organizations. With VCs, again, echo on what Esteban mentioned before, we raise funds in Latin America, and also we went to Dubai to raise funds there. And in many different countries, I would say that sometimes the approach should be more focused on, okay, what's the impact that you're creating? But on other situations should be, okay, how fast can you grow while doing the right thing? And another misconception that we have is that the more countries we're in, I would say the more revenue we shall generate, but expansion costs a lot of money. And you need to be willing to invest a lot in a country and losing money for a long period of time sometimes till this country becomes profitable. So once this country becomes profitable, then you can expand to a different country. And also trying to find the right people to develop those markets is not easy. And once you're having the right team, you need to do all the best you can to have this team motivated across like different realities. In Latin America, we are experts about changing the reality overnight. So again, it's I would say that I underestimate how hard it was to have a regional presence across those many markets.
But when you're thinking about the very beginning of your journey of your organization, how did you generate that income? Like, what was your starting point for that? And maybe you can share any practical ways that the attendees can also then take to their organizations.
I can start. You're talking with the worst possible salesperson in the room, but I have the clear vision to say, okay, if I can sell what we are doing to at least 3 funds, 3 companies, those companies can recommend us to other companies. So it was the way to start moving the ball. And in order to secure one customer, I had to visit 30 companies to prospect them. And once I was receiving like 25 no's, I was sure that, okay, the next one was a yes. But my moral was so low that saying, okay, I'm the worst salesperson here. So, but again, since I was able to receive a yes, I was so happy that I was saying, okay, what we are doing is going to change the world. And then I was sharing like this enthusiasm with more customers. So for us, we understand it was what we were doing was real once we were having 5 paying customers for our services and say, okay, if those big corporations are putting their trust and money in us, okay, this is something that it's worth to keep scaling. And we were in this journey, we were receiving a lot of offers to say, okay, let's try doing this for free in order to understand if there is a solution on what you're proposing to us. And we learned in the hard way that if we are offering something for free, companies are not valuing what you're doing, what you're offering. So again, learning in the hard way, we stopped doing anything for free for companies. For people with disabilities, everything what they do is for free to them, because we need to understand the value on what we are doing. And several times we were receiving like the question for companies saying, hey, why are you charging us to do that? And say, I need to pay salaries, I need to pay for a team. So if I have to deliver a high quality service to you, I cannot pay by hugs. I need to pay actual money. And we need to dissociate while doing good for companies should be something that is valuable for companies. And that was a big learning for us. Never do something to corporates for free.
How about you, Esteban? Because your journey and your organization had a different model at the beginning, at least. So what were your tips and tricks that you can share here?
Yeah. So in my case, for example, just like I said, my final user is someone that usually they don't have the resource or pay for our product. So this can't be my market, right? This can be my customer. This is gonna be my final user. And we started like reaching a couple of persons, like 5 persons in the beginning for per year. And then in 2026, we have reached more of 500 persons. After a pandemic, we start to reach more of 100 persons per year. And that's because we start to looking for value instead of money. I'm gonna explain that because maybe it makes no sense, but what I'm trying to say is that when you find the right door, more doors are just gonna open. Yeah, it's just like Gary said, you're gonna have a lot of nuts, but you can't be frustrated about that because when the first yes that you receive, something big is gonna happen. And in my case was with an airline. And what is similar with an airline with my project, and then we're just talking about the difficulties that have people in the rural areas, and that will be easier to reach them if we fly to the communities, if we come to the rural area in an easy way. And that was one of our first partnerships that helped us to reach those people. But definitely something that you need to think about it is more than think about who can fund us is to start to asking who already benefits from what we do. Because for example, an airline, you just was asking yourself, how is that gonna be useful for the community with upper limb disability? And they saw in their social responsibility opportunity to work with us. So companies interested in innovation and social impact, university looking for educational experience, or just the community, of course, communities needing a system solution. So in each of them, you could engage with with Humanos 3D in different ways, not only as donors, but as partners or clients. That's how we started offering things like workshops, educational programs, and start to co-create the project with the organization. When we involve the organization, we are involved with employers, with the students, and with the beneficiaries. When we co-create with them, we are gonna give in credibility, and we are gonna have more testimonials, and we're gonna have like a real impact and a clear impact of what we are doing. So they are gonna believe in our project. So a practical step is map your stakeholders, identify who's already getting value from your work, and how that value could become in a service, a product, or a collaboration. So it's not just about donors, it's about value. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Your first come probably is gonna be really small, but it changes mindset completely. Sustainability is not just it's not something you achieve at the end, it's something you start building from the beginning.
I really like that even though you have totally different projects and you are coming from different backgrounds, the strategies are very, very similar. Value what you're doing, think about the end user that is a person with a disability, and especially charge the people that can pay for the services. So especially companies, universities, those who actually have the funding. So I really like those insights that you both provided. Esteban, if you would elaborate a little bit more, what an organization should focus on to build a funding model that works. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how to find something of that value that you talk about.
Right. So I'm gonna share a couple of things, the three things that maybe have been essential for us, especially in our context in Colombia. Um, so again, the clarity of the value, right? Not just the impact. You need to be clear about the value that you are creating. Impact is important, but sustainability comes when different stakeholders understand what problem you solve for them. For example, Humanos 3D, for these three targets for communities is access to assistive devices. For companies is giving like a social responsibility, is giving innovation, employee engagement. For universities, is education in a real world experience because unfortunately, or the things here is that students learn about in the theoric, but they can't apply the knowledge. So with us, they have that opportunity. And at the same time, when people don't know what is disability, they don't know what is inclusion. So that is like a something to that we can really reach, talking about our experience and trying to to explain all the challenge that we already having with the democratization of this and with the accessibility. Accessibility is really a big problem in the world. Um, Definitely you need to diversify, and that's what we were doing. But that's what we're trying to do, to use the same strategies because will be to have 3 companies, something for universities, something for social enterprises, something for the final users. But at the end, we try to okay, how can we use the same strategy for reach the different markets or different possible sponsors or clients. So diversify your income streams, but you know that not everything is going to bring money, but definitely you can combine donation with service and partnerships, and sometimes contacts is the most important that you need. When you have the right contact, where you can continue looking for another contact and more contacts to reach this guy that is going to say, hey, I have the money for this. Yeah, and that will summarize with the final one, relationships. Relationship is gonna be really important in a deeply in the way that what you remember that this is a win to win. If you win, how the other person is gonna win too. You need to think in what is the interest of the other person, and then is here you create an alliance. When you create confidence and possibility of create something new with a conversation, collaboration, a long-term relationship. If I had to summarize, yeah, so be clear in your value, be intentional with your revenue, and invest in relationship. That's what gives sustainability over time. In my case, for example, I am in a pilot project in Kenya, in Rwanda, and come on, I'm from Colombia, and all that was because I have an alliance, a volunteer in Kenya, I have an alliance in UK, ally in UK, and we start to connect everything, and we start to think in a brainstorm, and then just something come up. And this pilot project, we had the opportunity to teach about 3D printing, about all the things that we are doing to students from Strathmore University in Kenya, and they are replicating the model in Kenya right now. This is not like a competence. This is because, I mean, you are in Africa. For me, it's going to be really difficult to access to you, but I can give you the tools for you can continue impacting your community. And then I have the resources for give that tools, for give that knowledge to them, and then it depends of them what they want to do. They are volunteer right now, but they can create their own company. They can create everything that they want, because there is a big problem. There is we are working with like a 20 persons, 20 possible recipients in Kenya too. So it's more like that, just contacts. I will, sorry for extend. It's more like continue looking for conversations.
Gabriel, are your building blocks similar or different when it comes to funding?
Really similar. I would say that trust is the currency we have is the common currency we have in Latin America. And several of the biggest projects we have are part of people who trust in us more than 10 years ago. And then we can see the career progression of these people. And the more they make progress in their careers, typically the more budget they have, and the more power they do have to invest in long-term solutions. So, and those are the people who is also changing across companies. And we can see that inclusion is contagious once the person understands the value of diversity and inclusion. And we've been working or trying to work with a company for the last 6 years, failing year after year. But once the new HR director approached to this company, this person was working for a former customer of us. And in the first month of her appointment, she decided to say, okay, you know what? I mean, it's unacceptable that we are not hiring people with disabilities as part of our recruiting processes. So we want to work with Inclusive. And this is when you understand, okay, the value of long-term relationships, and say, okay, sometimes it's not the company itself who is not willing to hire. Sometimes people are having other priorities, but when you're having the right person on the right seat, and this is where the magic happens. And also, we are trying to diversify as much as we can our sources of revenue. And since Latin America is an unstable region, sometimes we have like demonstrations in one country, big currency devaluation in another one, or a political instability in a different one. So in order to navigate those unstable situations, we need to put our focus on as many countries as possible. So it's hard, not considering this 2025 because this is where most of the markets were down for us. But typically, when a country is up, the other one is going down. So there is a way to compensate and mitigate risks across countries if you are putting your effort in many, many locations. And the same reality also happens with customers. I mean, if you have one customer who is a big chunk of your profits, you need to put our focus on, okay, keep delivering and added value to this customer, but start looking for a different source of revenue as soon as you can, because you are too dependent to this customer. So, and the same applies to donors. I mean, if you're running a big project with a big donor, you need to keep working actively to secure more sources of revenue, because we witness a lot of cases in Latin America when there is an initiative being funded by one single donor, and since they lack to secure the next round of funding, they need to dissolve this initiative. So diversify as much as you can in order to mitigate the risk.
I agree with that a lot. And I think that if someone was to put what should be the first steps for you to complete, is that to seek as many opportunities that you can, know who are the stakeholders you need to connect with, and then start building a network. And if everything falls into place after that, you will make it in the end to secure that funding. Although it's easier said than done, we need to acknowledge that as well. I also think that we have a very interesting input in the chat as well that I will read out. An important point to reflect on. Often persons with disabilities and their organizations are called upon to provide their expertise and time for projects, yet this work is not always recognized and compensated. True inclusion begins in valuing the technical knowledge of persons with disabilities as any other professional consultancy rather than just a voluntary contribution. And I think that this is very in line with what was said during the last Zero Project conference, that the lived experience of a person with a disability is like intellectual property. Is definitely something that could bring a lot of value to companies if they are willing to listen. If anyone in the who is listening to the webinar has any kind of questions, this is your time to post them in the chat for Gabriel and Esteban. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask you one more question, and let's start with Gabriel here first. You have so many opportunities, so many companies to work with. How do you decide which one to work with first, and how to decide that you cannot go into partnership with another one?
Well, that's a hard question, because I mean, you need to pay salaries, and if you're willing to grow your organization, I mean, you tend to say yes more than you have to say no. And by definition, we decided to not to work with public offices, because public offices are a difficult animal in Latin America. The legal risk in Latam is sometimes huge, but I mean, when you are struggling to make the finance work, and then you are invited to apply for a big project, you are doubling. I mean, saying, okay, shall I say yes or no? So we found that sometimes the sweet spot for that is to work with the funder of this initiative, which sometimes is a multilateral organization or the European Union doing developing projects. So working with them for us was like the sweet spot, since we were able to deliver impact and to mitigate as much as possible to the risk of working with the public sector. Additionally, working with private companies, sometimes we've been approached for companies saying, okay, I need to showcase these 2 job opportunities and that's it. And we learned to say no, because sometimes we were sending people to our organization who is not ready to hire, and the whole process is not helping anyone. I mean, it's not helping the company to achieve success, and worst of all is making applicants with disability to suffer into the process, saying, okay, I'm being asked questions about my disability who are not related to the job I had to perform. So again, we were saying no and explaining why it's no, and saying, okay, if you're not doing A, B, and C, you are not achieving impact. So we are okay. If you don't want to do this, you can go with other organizations. Here we are, if you want to do this process, and because we learn that this process is going to help you to achieve success. And other different thing is in countries where there is quotas, several times we are having inquiries coming from companies saying, okay, I have to be to hire, I don't know, 30 people in the next month, and I have 0 applicants with disabilities so far. Can you help me? And say, look, I mean, we can help you, but we cannot promise that you can achieve this in such short period of time. So, setting up the right expectations sometimes is punishing our revenue in the short term, because next time, I mean, we're competing with other organizations that sometimes are saying, hey, you know what, you can achieve that, just let's work together, and it's not sustainable. So in a middle period of time or long period of time, sometimes those companies are coming back to us and say, hey, you know what, we tried this, didn't work, so why don't we work together? But it's costing us a lot of effort, because we need to start again, coming from scratch from the companies. So I will say that setting the right expectations with your customers and being radical transparent on what's achievable for you and what's not, for us was a right way to decide, I mean, which are the opportunities that we can pursue or not.
And how about your input here, Esteban? What are, let's say, your tips and tricks on how to decide what funding opportunities you will pursue and which you will need to decline?
Yeah, it's just basically what Gabriel said, but just taking into account that you're always gonna say yes in the beginning. You don't care, you need to looking for funds, so you feel that every opportunity is important for you. So this is a very challenge, especially when you're starting, because yeah, every opportunity this is I if I miss this, I don't gonna continue with this project. So and you probably are gonna be desperate, or I was desperate in the beginning. I didn't know what to say. I just said, yeah, yes, of course, and was a big deal for me. It was a lot of problems. But when you start to have a journey, when you see the things that you think are working, when you see that there is the things that you are doing and your beliefs make sense, and you see the impact, you see the reality, you see that you when you start to believe in yourself, when you start to believe in your project, then you know how to say no. You know when it's a not and when it's a yes. In my case, for example, I lost or I won, I don't know. But I was talking with an organization that want to fund us, but the condition was like create a big number of prosthetic hands in the year, and and the next year duplicate that. And yeah, sounds great, sounds fantastic, but it's not just that we are not like a prosthetic factory. We are really focusing centered human design. So it's like one every single person is not gonna take just 1 week of process. With every person, you need to have a feedback. You need to continue working with them. So sometimes less is more. So I have to reject that. Was a really difficult decision. A lot of people around told me you are crazy, you are stupid, but at the end, the things going well because the things I was believing have opportunities to be funded in the way I was presented. So again, the idea is to continue impacting more people, to continue reaching to more people, but it's a transition. And if I say yes right now, I know that it's gonna be a lot of troubles. It's not gonna be maybe we are not gonna be so prepared because you need to control like a different kind of persons, and you know how this is gonna work so easily. Um, you need to take the risk, of course, when you know that is the time. But before, I want to continue learning from my recipients and continue working with customized designs because with every single person, it's not like we have a standard product. With every single person, basically something different, and that's like my challenge. But it's what we are different, why we are different too. It's like the good things that we have, we are really customizing and personalize it. But at the same time, it's not so easy to escape because with every recipient is a new story. But that's what we have, and we have like a really good storytelling thanks to the testimonials for our users, where we are talking about how co-create and the preference of their users with organization is because the center human design that we have with them. So just ask those questions. Does this align with with your mission? Does it move us towards sustainability, not just like a short-term funding? And if does it strengthen or does it is gonna make you strong, or if it's gonna distract you, and is it gonna distract your team? Because sometimes opportunities bring money, but also complexity. So distraction or mission drift. So we try to think long term. Sometimes there is a lot of urgency, but we try to think.
I think we temporarily lost Esteban, but let me try to bring. You're back. We didn't hear your last sentence. If you could repeat it.
Uh, Sorry, yeah, I saw that I have a connection problem, but I'm back. I just was saying that not every opportunity is gonna be a good opportunity.
Yes, thank you for that. And I think that we have few questions piled up. So the first one is the one that came through the Q&A. I am blind and I have a startup. Could I use your services to help me connect with other companies? I guess this is a question for you, Gabriel.
We have a program for entrepreneurs. So we are happy to connect. Feel free to reach me out after this webinar. I can share my email contacts with you in the chat right here.
Perfect. And the second one would be, what common mistakes do you see in organizations seeking funding for the first time in Latin America? Esteban, maybe you can start. One mistake.
I think that is a summary of the things that Gabriel and you have said until now. There's many mistakes, many mistakes. You are gonna take a lot of mistakes. The first one is to think that your product is everything. When you're not prepared, like a meeting with a possible sponsor, you just go like with the things that you already know about your product. Well, you need to know about your market. You have to have a business model, right? So you have to have like awareness about what you're doing, what is the problem, why are you doing it? And that's important one. Why you? Because everyone could be doing the same, but why is different? There's a particular reason why you're doing this. Sometimes because you just work around, but sometimes you have a real purpose about what you're doing. And that's important because it's gonna give you credibility to the sponsors to understand that even if they say not, you are gonna continue with this project because they need to know that you are strong enough to receive a not, to receive a bad decision, to receive a bad news. And another mistake would be yeah, to feel like you fit everywhere, like to looking for grants everywhere. You need to be really specific. You need to looking for really specific grants in my case, for something that's gonna be really aligned with you. Because if not, you're gonna waste a lot of time. Because yeah, if you're talking about educational program, but you are focusing more in a social aspect, where you need to know if this is really gonna fit with their interest.
Gabriel, anything to add there?
Execution is everything. We can have like the same template to raise funds. Say, okay, this is how big the market is. Those are my potential customers. You name it. I mean, and in an Excel spreadsheet, every projection is awesome. I mean, the problem is when you crash with the wall, which means, okay, are you being able to deliver what you're promising? And how, as Esteban mentioned before, I mean, how can I trust that you are the right person to execute what you're promising? And if you can showcase what you already achieved, that's a big differentiation with more organizations like pitching for the same money.
And I think that one more question would be very relevant for both of you. What strategies did you use to obtain international funding? If you had any strategies. Gabriel, you are smiling with that question, so you start.
We have a full-time employee applying for grants, and also since we are having like big project with big donors, it's helping us to be invited to apply to different grants and funding opportunities. So that the more experience you have and the more track record you have, the easier it becomes to secure some funding. I say easier, but it's never easy to apply for big donors. I mean, there is a lot of paperwork, a lot of compliance and documents that you need to fulfill. Another big advice is that have your paperwork ready. It means every financial status should be audited and you need to provide every document coming from the bank from the state. I mean, you need to be compliant, and it makes a lot of time and investment to be compliant and to have like a high level of transparency that is required by big donors. So you need to be very, very tidy on your paperwork and the delivery of every project, and also never underestimate how many meetings you need to have before and after and during the project execution, just to be accountant and say, you know what, we are executing this. If there is any deviation in the project, you need to showcase that, and that's sometimes is you need to have a person only working to provide the paperwork and the reporting that is required by those organizations. And in our case, for a big project, we need to hire two FTEs just to provide every report in the formats they need, and they're changing the reporting format 5 times, no, that's not an exaggeration, 5 times across 2 years, which was the project execution. And we understand that. I mean, we were, thanks to God, we were talking with very reasonable people, saying, you know what, I mean, with a big organization, that's a new system, that's a new reporting format, and you know what, I mean, you need to work with them. And sometimes it's a lot of overcost for the project, but it is the way it is. So never, 2 things again, never underestimate the project paperwork that is needed, and be very, very tidy with your finances, your paperwork, have all your audits and ready to, because if they decide to move forward, you need to have everything ready in a week. So the tidy you are, the better it is.
And even though I would love to hear the response to that question from you, Esteban, we are slowly running out of time. And even though we have great questions still waiting to be answered, I would rather encourage everyone to maybe share your email addresses, Esteban, Gabriel, if you are willing to answer those questions privately with the attendees. And in the meantime, I would ask both of you about a call to action, or if there is anything else you would like to add to this conversation. And Esteban, I would start with you.
Call to action. Yeah, in my case, definitely. Um, well, thank you so much for this space again. If I could leave one call to action, it will be something that actually Gabriel said too, execute. Don't wait to have the perfect funding strategy to start building sustainability. Start with what you have already. Start with what you already have and your value, your community, your purpose, and take the first step. Um, if you are part already of an organization, a company that wants to explore how innovation and social impact can go hand in hand, we are always open to collaborate. I always leave with you this our slogan, giving us a hand, and we promise to give many more.
That's a great call to action. Gabriel, how about you?
I mean, what we are doing is difficult. So maybe my big call to action is go and find more partners and try to make this big impact happen despite of the conditions that are never going to be like a dreaming conditions to make an impact. I think that we, as several organizations are working on the same field, we need to engage more and try to find ways to say, okay, there is room for collaboration, and we need to expand our impact in different ways. And this time, in the reality we are facing, we need to be more creative about how can we deliver and achieve results despite of having really limited resources to achieve impact.
And from my side, I would say that always value the smallest connection you can make. Because the person that you connect with on LinkedIn, the person that you talked when you were in the queue for coffee, the person that you met in an elevator, if you can construct a 30 seconds or 1 minute pitch of who are you, what are you doing, and what is it worthwhile to have you in that person's network, you will make a connection that then can sustain you in the future, because that person can know another person and they can think about you the next time they hear from someone who's looking for someone that is doing exactly what you are doing for persons with disabilities. Thank you so much. We are 1 minute after our time, unfortunately, so we need to wrap this up. But thank you to the interpreters. Thank you to Varun and Javiera for the support. And of course, thank you to both you, Gabriel and Esteban, for sharing your knowledge and for the willingness to share. And thank you to all attendees that have been so active in the chat with their comments. Please remember to connect with all of us on LinkedIn. Please remember to submit your questions if there haven't been the answers to them provided here. Look up the newsletter that Javiera shared, and of course, also check out the YouTube link that was shared with everyone and the Zero Project Scanning Solutions website to see the recordings and takeaways from both webinars in English and in Spanish. Thank you all. Have a great day, afternoon, and evening as well. And see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.